Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another brand new commentary video by me, the legend Hermes. Please subscribe to the channel. And today I'm going to be talking in a bit of an American accent because today's video is going to be about Australia versus America. Nah, but seriously, this is a serious conversation, guys. So, other day I was driving, I'm like, I need to do a new video, and I was thinking, what can I do? I've kind of spoken about the politics stuff, and I needed something new and interesting to talk about. And then I remembered what was going on in Los Angeles, poor country America, and I was like, let's make a video comparing Australia and America. Right? Let's go through the differences. I've been to America, I live in Australia. I can't, and like obviously America's all over the news and everywhere like that. So let's get into a sort of what the difference is between living in Victoria or Australia and America. The first thing I want to do, the first thing we're going to talk about is guns, right? Because that would have to be the biggest difference between America and Australia, just in general, and America and the rest of the world. There is no other country in the world that has everyday people carrying guns like they do in America, right? Like you have gun shops in America. You can go to buy a gun and ammo and, a sniper rifle as easily as you can go and buy a loaf of bread and milk. Whereas in Australia, you can't do that. To get a gun license in Australia, you have to go through a lot of different processes and regulatory processes, basically, to get a gun. Second of all, you can't just walk up to a gun shop and go in and buy a gun. You have to live in a certain part of Australia. When I say a certain part, I mean like rural Australia to be able to purchase a gun. And there's a lot of hoops you have to go through between living in Australia to get a gun in America and Australia. Now, while both Australia and America have strengths and weaknesses, Australia offers a superior social safety, right? And public safety, where America sort of excels in entertainment, technology, and consumer choice, right? So, now, a lot of people in America say it's my First Amendment right to own a gun to protect me and my family. Okay, now it's everyone's rebuttal is always like, you're an idiot, for one, but two, like, what do you need to carry a gun throughout the streets, right? Like, in some states in America, you can walk down the street and have a pistol on you, right? People walk down the streets with guns that are about to go commit mass murders, and people just sort of like ignore it like it's just everyday life. Like, that is not normal, right? Especially how many school shootings and massacres you've had. To me, it doesn't personally make sense. Like, I can walk down the street in Australia and, if you wanted to go from a safety concern, the worst thing that's going to happen to me is I get stabbed or you get punched, right? Both of those things can lead to death, but you've got a higher chance of surviving, right? I don't have to worry about walking down the street and getting shot. And I'm safer, right? In America, you can walk down the street and someone could have a bad day or someone looks at you wrong and bang, they shoot you and you're dead, right? There is a low chance of survival rate. So the differences are people always go, oh, but I've got to protect, and how do I protect my family? Well, if nobody has guns, right, the worst you're going to have to protect yourself from is a knife or a machete, which is quite easy, really, when you think about it. A chair will protect you. A milk crate will protect you. Like, distance will protect you. Unless they're a ninja and they can throw, right, a knife. It's just real simple stuff. So, you can shoot a gun from hundreds of meters away and kill someone. Whereas You can't do that in Australia. That's it's not on your mind. It's not something you can think of. It's not something that crosses your mind. Like I safely walk in down the street in Australia and go, yeah, I'm fine. I don't think someone's going to shoot me. But anyway, this is not a video about guns. Let's go next. Healthcare. That's another huge thing. Australia has universal healthcare coverage. Almost all doctor visits are free. Now we have Labor in, that probably will be free. Having a baby doesn't really cost. My sister's had 2 babies at the moment, and like at no point has she gone, I'm struggling for money, because it doesn't really cost too much money to have a baby in Australia. Whereas America, I think I've seen some TikToks and YouTube videos where people have like, it's cost me $20,000 to have a baby. It's cost me $50,000 to have a baby. Whereas that doesn't really happen in Australia. We've got private health insurance. Private health insurance is it's a thing that the government wants you to have so that that takes strain off the public health system. But nevertheless, it's something that you pay, $100 a month or $200 a month for, and you can go into a private hospital and get care quicker. Whereas America, a simple surgery, like I've been to hospital countless times with different surgeries, and they've really only ever cost me a few $100s. Whereas a surgery in America could cost you as much as $50,000. So that it's not really, it's something that people don't really think about here in Australia. It's not where it's like, oh, do I go get this surgery? Do I go see this doctor? It's not a private system where people benefit. It's a public system. It's a government funded, partially government, mostly government funded, and with Labor probably fully government funded. And it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not something that I would, you pick on a government for providing basic healthcare for everybody. And those who can afford better healthcare can afford better healthcare. Like, it shouldn't be something that gets taken away from you just because you don't have money. And you get peace of mind at the end of the day. Knowing that just because you need a surgery or just because you need something that's life-changing, it's not going to send you bankrupt and you're going to have to work, for the next 7 years, 10 years to pay off a loan for getting a simple surgery. The other thing is social safety. We've got a thing in Australia called Medicare. Medicare is what we have in Australia. That's what we call our universal healthcare. Is called Medicare, and that's what the healthcare is. But we have another program called Centrelink. Right? Centrelink is basically if you've got a disability, if you can't work for some reason, if you looking for a job in the interim, the government will give you money to make sure that you can live the basic. We're talking, you're not going out for dinner. You're going to buy rice and chicken, right? But it's provided to everybody if you're not working, if you're looking for work. Now, there are strict rules that you have to abide by to be able to get Centrelink. However, at the end of the day, it's a system that the government has provided to give everybody in Australia the most basic living needs. So we don't have homeless people at the end. Essentially, we don't have homeless people, right? Now, you don't get that in America. There's no guaranteed minimum income. There's limited support for those who are unable to work. And there's a much higher risk of homelessness. Now, if you go into Australia, look lately, yes, everything has gone a bit cuckoo. And there is a lot more homelessness in Australia. However, that is simply because of the Labor government. But if you look at America's homeless rate, it's very, very, very different, because there's no systems in America, from what I'm aware of, that allow you to be able to basically, I know they've got disability, but there's no real systems like we have in Australia, where if you can't work, the government will give you something like $800 a week so you can, rent for $100 or $200 a week. You can buy food, you can have a phone, you can contact your family. Just real basic things that people should be entitled to so that they can live a happy and healthy life. That is another big thing. So healthcare and Centrelink, Medicare and Centrelink are probably the two biggest things that Australia have that is different to America, that just bring those quality of life standards up and make sure that you are going to live a pretty healthy and safe and not homeless life. Cost of living and wages, Australia has a higher cost of living and Australia has a higher wage, but we have an overall, I would say, better standard of living than America does. However, America has lower cost of living, lower wages, and greater economic inequality. So, meaning if you're rich in America, your life is fine. If you're middle class, you're going to have an occasional struggle, but overall, you're probably going to be okay. And then you have, if you're a low income earner in America, you're basically living paycheck to paycheck and you're not really getting very far in life. So big difference there. But again, it's hard to say, right? So what are the advantages of America? Or what do I see as the advantages of America? Well, earlier access to new technology and entertainment. If you think about like an Apple, for example, or like Samsung, a lot of these companies first implement everything in America, right? You got Hollywood, you got media production, all the celebrities go to America. All the sports, WWE, golf, NFL, you've got a lot of sports that are pretty big all over the world that don't really go out. The last few years that have been doing that, but overall you don't. You got more choice. There's more mum and dad shops that get supported. There's less big corporations. Amazon and Walmart and Target and all these places don't really have a monopoly because you have such a big population that you get a lot of this stuff first and there's not as much choice. And each state is kind of very different in the sense that, they'll support different things. Like Walmart might do good in some states. Target might be good in other states. Amazon probably does good all around. But I don't know. I think America just has a better way of life in that sort of sense. There's a lot more choice. Whereas Australia is very much, you've got two choices for your groceries. Well, two big choices. You have other smaller choices, but majority of you got two. So that's that there. You've got daily life. Again, it comes back to Australia is a much safer country. I think that's the biggest thing when you look at comparing them. We are very safe. You don't have to be scared about your kids going to school and ending up, unalived. We don't have guns. You can't really get guns. But, we are also, our government's more fucked if you ask me. Like our government's not a very nice government. And there's certain things where the government gives up way too much. The government gives too much power to certain people. Like there's definitely things there that are like, yeah, why are we doing this? We shouldn't be doing this. But I think overall, if you are happy to sacrifice safety and health for being in a country that has a better economic standpoint, there's not as much monopolies, there's early access, you get things like the golf, the NFL, you can go watch these events. I think America is definitely the country to be in. However, if you sort of want less control over your life, you want to pay more taxes, and you want the government to kind of run the show and let you not live your life how you want to live it, you can get up, you can send your kids to school, you can go for a walk, and you're going to be safe. You get a lower chance of being unalived or dying. There's no guns. It's very safe. The worst thing you have to worry about is getting stabbed, and as much as that's sucky, it's nothing compared to being shot. You got less crazy people. I think overall, I don't know. I like living in Australia. Slowly, these things are coming to Australia. Hopefully, slowly we get a new government. But I think if I had to pick, I'd pick Australia. But I do love America. It is a very good, it's a country that I love. I love seeing, and it's actually quite disappointing how the standard of living and safety in America is done, but who knows. But I think that's gonna do it, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm sort of doing these off the cuff now, so they're a little bit more like I'm stopping because I'm thinking. I kind of, anyway. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna make a video now on how I make my videos. Bye bye.